I'm crazy. I'm about to go on my windiest ride yet. It's 45 degrees out and 26-mile-an-hour sustained winds. I can hear it howling outside. So, I have never rode in this much wind. I think the most I've ever rode is like 21-mile-an-hour wind. 21 mile an hour. So, let's see if we make her.
Little did I know that the winds, by the time I got out, were actually well over 30 miles an hour sustained. And throughout my ride, the winds got up to 41 miles an hour sustained winds. Like, just an insane amount of wind. But the good news is, on this road, the wind pushed me right along. I didn't even have to pedal at certain times. I pedaled a little bit and that was it. I just let the wind push me. I was actually kind of experimenting just to see if the wind would push me. And it did. The temperature was about, 44 or 45 degrees when I left the house. The wind made it feel extremely cold. And I got very cold very fast on this ride. But I was heading down to Montrose. My original plan was to go to the new place called the Sandbar. That was their opening day, Thursday. But instead, I didn't make it that far because I saw one of my buddies down there. Going down the muddy mess of a hill again here. It dried up a little bit, but still pretty bad. So one of the things that I've done this winter is I've dialed back the temperature that I'll ride in by 10 degrees. Normally, I've been riding bicycle. This will be my third year of serious bicycle riding. And normally, I won't ride if it's below 50 degrees. And even in the low 50s, I'd be very skeptical about getting out in it. But I decided this year that I need to dial it back so I can get more wintertime riding days. So I'm able to ride all the way down to 40 degrees now with pretty good comfort. I even did a 39 degree ride over the winter. My goal for next year is to ride all winter long. Maybe not when it's like 0 degrees, but when it's like, in the 30s or maybe even the 20s. That might be wishful thinking, but if it's in the 20 or 30s and there's not a lot of wind, I don't see why I couldn't do it with the proper gear. There's plenty of videos on YouTube and tips on the internet about riding in cold weather. But here I am rolling down Main Street in Montrose again, and you can see the leaves just swirling across the street from the wind. The wind was behind me. It was pushing me pretty good. I took some other streets. I stayed pretty much in Montrose, but I took some streets where I had to ride against the wind, and it wasn't actually as hard as I thought. But the biggest problem that I had that day was the cold. It was just the wind made it feel colder than it was. And it was just, I couldn't bundle up enough. So my gloves have holes in them. I need to get new gloves. And my finger was getting cold. You'll see to the left there's a yellow truck. That's my buddy's truck. And he was hanging out over at my other buddy's place. And when I saw that truck, I immediately thought, there's my ride home. Because the last thing I wanted to do was ride home in this stuff. Even though I had planned on it, I was really getting cold. And I remember when I left the house, I thought, this is crazy. This is stupid. Maybe I shouldn't do this. And I actually rode against the wind out of my driveway for about a half mile just to see how bad it would be. And it wasn't too bad, so I decided to go ahead and I made the decision to go ahead and go down to Montrose. Pulling up on the river, and one of the things you'll notice is, just in a few days' time, this was a Thursday, and my first ride was on the Sunday before, where all the snow and ice was jammed up against the shoreline. It's all gone. It's all either melted or washed downstream pretty amazing. Not a trace of ice. I just couldn't believe it. With all the ice that was jammed up there before, and now there's nothing. I'll show a before picture here. Holy moly, it is windy. But I made it to Montrose, and I brought me a sack lunch. So I'm gonna sit here at the park here down by the river and have my lunch. Now, 10 miles in. Anyway, 10 miles in, and I was so cold by then that I was done. I wasn't out of energy. I wanted to ride more, but I just decided that it would have been a cold, miserable ride home. So I pull into my buddy's place here, and I'm just going to get a ride home from my friend. But this proves that you can ride in bad conditions. I headed in, tried to get warmed up. Of course, had to have a brewski with my buddy and catch up. But yeah, this proves that 90% of it is laziness. We can really ride in a lot of conditions. We can do a lot of things. We make excuses like, oh, it's too windy today, or it's too cold today, or yada yada yada. But the truth is, you can do it. You can ride in all sorts of conditions if you really want to. Anyway, we loaded the bike in the truck and we headed on home. Had a good 10 miles, but it just wasn't worth freezing my rear end off. If I'd have dressed differently, it might have been a different story. Anyhow, I ended up going to my buddy's house, and we ended up frying some fish, and we had a great night together.